In the real time, we are going to use a Docker file very well. So here if you see, Docker can build images automatically by reading the instructions from Dockerfile. Okay. The name of the Docker file in our directory should be Docker file itself. In that mandatory, D should be capital. And no extensions like YAML or TF, nothing like that. Only Docker file. Okay. Say in one directory, we can keep only one Docker file. Okay. If I have multiple microservices, if I have 12 microservices, can you tell me how many directories we need to keep? 12 directories. In each directory, that own microservice code, and we will have that Docker file also. Okay. In one directory, we can use only one Docker file. We can't keep, because the name of the Docker file is that only the Docker file. Okay. We can't keep duplicate kind of names. Okay, so then once we have a Docker file, we can build the images. Docker build -t. So what is this meaning of my image?
That's the name of our image. So we are
our own customized name, and the tag we can use 1.1. What is the version you want, or maybe tag. Then latest also we can give. What is that meaning of dot? What is that meaning of dot? The dot is the path of the Docker file. In this scenario, what is the meaning of dot is? In the
part of
local
the Docker
directory
file.
we have. In the local directory we have. So now in Ubuntu microservice, in the directory, what we should have? In this path, what we should have? We should have a Docker file. If you are already in the directory, then give dot. Otherwise, give the path of it. Give the path of
Docker file.
the path of the Docker file. From this, the image is going to build. So I'll tell one example maybe. I'm going to build through latest also I can give. Then dot. From this, it's going to build the latest image of my Tomcat. Latest image of my Tomcat. If you don't give any tag, it uses.
Latest one.
If you don't use any tag, it uses
Latest version.
latest tag only it is going to use. Okay. So then what are the instructions we have inside the Docker file? These commands, definitely people will ask you in the interview. Okay, spend a lot of time on understanding all the Docker file instructions. So here we have one is, and while giving the instructions, okay, say give them in the capitals. Okay, all the instructions give in capitals only. Is it fine? In Dockerfile, only D is capital, but instructions all we need to give capitals. What is the first instruction? What is the first instruction?
From.
From. Okay. While creating your image, already we can use an existing base image. Say when we create our application to create an AMI, first we'll take a Ubuntu AMI, right? That is the base AMI. On top of that, we are creating our own applications. Then we can create our own AMI. So here also we can take the image either from the OS or already existing image we can take. That base image we are going to specify as from image. Then second instruction is maintainer. So who is this writer or author or maybe someone written, I am going to maintain in my company this Docker file as of now. Give that name or email ID. What is the advantage with that? What is the advantage?
It will show us the name of the author.
Yeah, if you have any doubts regarding the Docker file, we can contact that guy. Okay, so if you have any doubts regarding this or if you want any modifications, we can contact that maintainer. So that is the purpose we are going for.
Maintainer.
Maintainer. Okay, so then we'll have run WORKDIR expose. Arguments we can pass as volume also is there. Maintainer from run work directory expose CMD. So we don't use this, but we have different, but very important one is till this. We may use sometimes env also, environment variable also. Okay, so these all the different, if anything is there additional, we may have another 2 to 3. We'll discuss those, but these are very, very important. We'll go for sample Docker files. With this, you'll try to understand. Okay. So either from scratch means we are taking an OS image. Okay. So then on top of that, we are installing the Tomcat. Then on top of that, we are customizing our own applications. Or from base image. Can you tell me what is the meaning of base image? Either from scratch or from base image. What is the meaning of base image? That base image is already we have Tomcat image, right? So now from Ubuntu, from default, in those examples, and Alpine also is one of the OS. Most of the containers will use Alpine kind of OS images because those are very lightweight compared to Ubuntu. And here, if I don't give anything meaning is here it's going to use latest kind of thing. Okay. So what is Alpine? Alpine is also one of the OS image, but compared to Ubuntu CentOS, it's very lightweight. What is the difference between Alpine and what is the Tomcat? What is the difference? Alpine is only the base OS image. If I use Alpine, again on top of that, I need to install Tomcat. But if I use the Tomcat itself as my base image, what is the advantage? I no need to specify all those instructions again. I no need to specify again those instructions. So is it recommended to use from the OS image, or that means from scratch or from base image, which is recommended? Which is recommended? From scratch or this one, which is recommended? Okay, so it's recommended from the scratch itself. Sorry, it's recommended to use the base images. It's recommended to use the base images. We'll go for one Tomcat from the scratch. So can you tell me what are the instructions here we have? In this Docker file,
OS is CentOS, sir.
yeah, from no, instructions tell me what are the instructions we use.
From CentOS, and the
Yeah,
maintainer
from is there.
and maintainer is hello at
Yeah,
get from
maintainer here you can give your name and email ID.
yes, sir.
Okay, so then
It is making the directory, sir. It is creating a directory.
run. So can you tell me this run command is running on your local Linux machine or inside that image? So inside the image also we have an operating system, right?
Yes, sir.
Inside that image also we have operating system. Okay, in run commands will run where?
-opt -tomcats. That's the directory.
No.
Working directory.
No. Whether run instructions will run on your local Linux machine or inside the image.
Inside the image, sir.
Inside the image. That means it will create one directory in that CentOS image. Any doubts on that? Okay, so then what is working directory is if you log into the Ubuntu mission, by default will get /home Ubuntu. If I copy any files, all those will run in the working directory file itself. If I copy any files also, it would be copied into OPT Tomcat itself. We can set as
the working directories.
Yeah, working directories we can set. Okay, so then this also in this run again, this command is running, exposing inside the image, that is opening the port. Inside that, it's exposing the port.
So it will listen to the port 8080.
Yeah, inside that, we are going to open that port. Okay, so we have one more command here. People will ask you mandatory, what is the difference between run and CMD? In order to execute your container, okay, one command is mandatory. Okay, so in order to run the container, one command, all these days we run the containers, right? Using the command itself, that container is running. Okay, say what is the difference between run versus CMD is run will run inside the
CMD.
Inside the image. Run will run inside the
Image.
Whereas that CMD will runs
in our local machine, sir? Local image?
No. CMD runs in. To run the container, we require one command. Using that command itself, your container is running. Using that command itself, our container is running. Are you able to understand?
So can you please explain it once again, sir?
So in order to run any container, we require one command. Using this command itself, always our container is running. I'll tell one example. By default, our command is running using one OPT Tomcat bin catalina.sh. We override that command. So what is this meaning is, by default, if you run this container, using this command, your container would be running. But what this is doing is, this command has been overridden with a bin bash. That means bin bash command will override it. Whereas run command will run inside the
image.
Whereas CMD will run to make the container
Running.
executable. To make the container executable, one CMD is mandatory. Okay, if we don't specify the CMD, what happens is your container would be exited. You understand what happens if you don't run?
Container will be exited.
Container would be
Exited.
That is the purpose.
Use CMD.
So we need to use the CMD. Okay. Then, if you want to copy the files inside the container, then we have copy and CMD. You want to copy the files inside the image. Okay. At the time of image building itself, I want to copy the files. Then we have two instructions. One is copy From local directory to inside the image, those files are getting copied. Okay. So from local directory, if you want to copy, use copy. From the remote URLs, if you want to copy, then add. So copy can be do from local directory. In my local Linux directory, I have my files. Then I'll use copy. If it is from the remote URL, okay, from there I want to copy. Then I need to use
Add.
add one. Okay, so that is the difference between copy and add. So it's recommended to use copy itself compared to add. Then we have one more is there, entry point. We can use CMD or entry point. Can you tell me what is the CMD? What is CMD? To make a container executable, you required. Entry point also is the same purpose. Entry point also is the same purpose. So here, this command, already your container may be running using one command. We've overridden that with enter into
bin bash.
bin bash. That means we've overridden that command or not. By default, container is running using another command, but we've overridden that with
Bin bash.
our command. Okay, if I use entry point, you cannot override with another command. Okay, so the purpose is same. Can you tell me what is the purpose?
It will
Both can
execute
execute.
our containers.
Yeah, in order to execute the containers, either we require CMD or
Entry point.
if you don't have CMD or entry point, what happens?
It will exit, sir. The
Yeah,
container
our
will exit.
container would be exited. Okay, it can't execute. Okay, so then what is the difference between CMD and entry point?
CMD can be override, sir, with another command.
Yeah, another
And
command. What is the command to override command?
Docker exec -it
I hope
containerization.
now you understand, right? How we enter inside the container, we overridden that and we enter inside.
Yes, sir.
Okay, but what is the difference between CMD and entry point?
So entry point cannot be override, sir, with any
As
other
of now,
command.
keep this, but still we have a lot of things are there. In the next 20-30 days also, while creating the Kubernetes deployments for all those, we require the images. If you have 12 microservices, okay, so can you guess how many Docker files we'll have?
12 Docker files.
12 Docker files, because each one will have their own different code. So now we'll go for the same Tomcat. Normally, only for example purpose, I shown the above one. Already we'll have a Tomcat base image. So in this, we didn't use the we didn't use CentOS, Alpine kind of thing. We already used the image. What is that image? Tomcat. Okay, from the Alpine internally, the Tomcat image again uses the Alpine image. And here you give your label. So directly you can use either label or maintainer directly you can use. Then add that sample var. Okay, so this is a var file we have. For this you don't need to go for add also. Copy is enough. So sample.var should be in your local directory. From there it is getting copied into
image.
Okay, then we expose and we have one CMD. I hope you understand, right? This one.
So Tomcat 8.0 hyphen Alpine. So
that is a tag.
Okay, so it will be Alpine will be on the top of Tomcat, sir?
No. On top of Alpine, they have the Tomcat image.
Oh, okay.
The base image of Tomcat has been installed again from scratch, but those steps we are not adding. In the initial one, we install the Tomcat also by taking the OS image. This is all installing the Tomcat, all these.
Yes.
But if I use the Tomcat base image, we no need to do all those. Is it fine?
Yes, sir.
Now, which type of applications we may have in our job? Okay, we may have a Spring Boot. We'll have a Spring Boot in the real time. Otherwise, front end may be React.js. Otherwise, the back end again may be Node.js, .Net, Python. Okay, so we may have a Python also. Okay, so maybe Spring Boot we will have React.js, Node.js, or ASP.NET or ASP.Core.NET, Python. Okay, so for all these also, how the Docker file should be, we require the knowledge. 90% the Docker files are same. What is going to change is the source code is going to be changed. Okay, the code who is going to develop?
Developers.
A developer, but that we need to copy with the different code and we need to create the different okay, and in the same project we may have front-end microservices, developed using React.js or Angular.js. Okay, so in the same project, we may have the front-end microservices also developed using React.js or
Angular, sir.
Angular.js. So maybe Spring Boot or Node.js, .NET, or sometimes Python also, it may be there. So Python also have their own using Django. Okay, so these all we should say, we may not have all these in the single project, but we are trying to get whatever it may be the application, we need to understand that Dockerfile. Mostly we are telling we have front end is
React.js or
JS or
AngularJS.
Angular JS. Now most of the companies are using for the front end. Back end is maybe
Spring Boot, Node.js, Dotnet.
Spring Boot, like this we have. Okay, mostly Spring Boot would be there. So you should able to write one Docker file for Tomcat. If you ask, try to write down this one. Instead of that sample.var, our own var file we need to get. And how we can get our own var file?
We'll download it from Docker itself.
No. We will build our Docker, we will build our source code. Who give the source code? Developer will give the source code. Once you build the source code through Maven or Gradle, then you will get the var file. Are you able to understand?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so here we use sample.var. We don't get the var file from the internet because that our own code, our developers has developed it. And they don't give directly the var file. They'll give the source code. Once you build it through Maven or like Gradle for Java-based applications, you will get a var file. Is it fine?
Yes, sir. So that's why we are using copy, right?
The copy inside that image, it is only with the Tomcat. I don't have any use. In the web apps, I should have my application.
Yes, sir.
Tomorrow, if I got a new build, again we are going to create a new image with a new tag, which is going to change.
Source code.
Only that build is going to change. Okay. So tomorrow we are going to get only that build only is getting changed. Remaining all are
Same.
but we'll get a new image tag. Okay. Say if I run yesterday image, yesterday code will run. If I run, say if we got 100 builds in 100 days, how many images we are going to build?
100, sir.
Yeah, one image with 100 tags we are going to build. Okay, almost it get 100 images itself. Okay. Any doubts on this?
So for that purpose, only Dockerfile has been introduced.
Yeah, we need to use the Docker file. Otherwise, each and every day I need to copy the files. We'll have a lot of manual process. But that can be automated using
Dockerfiles.
Docker files. Say
Just giving the tags, right?
very well about Docker files in the next 2 to 3 years also. Every day you are going to use Docker files because even if you have the existing Docker files also, some modifications, customizations, enhancements would be coming. Hence, in your project, what are the Docker files we have? Each and every instruction you need to understand. That's you can ask their like a lot of questions in their KT also. Okay. Any doubts on this? Now we'll go for a sample Java Spring Boot application, how it looks Dockerfile. So these all the sample one will go mostly in the going forward. We'll use multi-stage Docker files also. Try to understand this and try to write down all these Docker files. And we use OpenJDK and maintainer give your name or email ID. Then I build the code, right? I got a jar file and I'm copying that jar file into that working directory. It would be copied from my local target. I have this jar and message server jar. I'm going to say here I use Entrypoint instead of
CMD.
I'm going to use this one. The base image what we use is very, very important. These are the older images. We'll go for the official one. Try to understand the concept. The sample Node.js web app we have, because a lot of applications having Node.js also. So code is developer responsibility. Dockerfile is
Our responsibility.
Our responsibility. Then here Node.js, which version they use? Is it from scratch or from base image? We are using the base images itself. Again, taking an OS image, installing Node.js on top of that, those all we can skip it. By taking again the Node.js base image itself. Then we set a working directory. Okay, and here, these all the comments, you don't need to worry about those. We are copying all the package star.json files into, what is this meaning?
It's the home directory.
The image into user source app, it would be copied all these files. Okay, so then what is this meaning of run npm install? This is the build command. Say if it is Maven, using Maven will build. If it is Node.js, will build through npm. Okay, what is that meaning of copy dot dot? So what is that meaning of copy dot dot? Okay, so what is that copy dot dot meaning is, whatever the local files we have in that local directory, copy to inside the image. To which directory? To which directory we are copying?
User SRC apps.
Yeah, to the working directory, it would be copied. If you don't set working directory, by default for OS will have one Docker, say Om Ubuntu, Om EC2 user. That is a by default working directory. To that it would be copied, but I don't want to that. This path I want. That is the reason I said this as working directory. Okay, so like this in the project, if you have another 4 microservices which are related to Node.js also, only this source code is getting changed. Okay, Dockerfile almost looks same itself, but the source code which we are copying inside the image is getting changed. Are you able to understand why we'll go for 4 microservices? Is the source code is different. Then we have a .NET based application, assume. So here they have the Docker file. So in this they use the images. MCR dot Microsoft itself has given one image. /source, copying all the files. Try to keep this in every Docker file. What we will have is one source image, copy the source code, set the working directory, one command or entry point would be there. Using this, our containers are running. So in their GitHub repo, they're keeping the Docker files also. See here, these all the insertions and all those they have specified here. Just go through once. A cap, say pip they're using. NPM is for Node.js, pip for Python applications, Maven, those all will use for Java based applications. MS build for .NET based applications, and expose would be there. One CMD is there. Most of them all are similar kind of thing, but you need to remember the base images, which working directories we have. That may changes from technology to technology, company to company also, and accordingly we need to write our Docker files. So what is the command to build the images from the Docker file? To download the Docker file. So what are the like what is the command to build the images from the Docker file? What is the command? Docker build. Docker build -t, image name, tag name, then dot we have. Any doubts on that? Hello?
Yes, I can. Yeah.
Yeah. Are you able to understand like what is the command to install? Once we write the Docker file, we need to build the images. And where we need to store those images? Say tomorrow we'll build the images and we'll push to Docker registry. For that we require Docker Hub credentials.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
And so what is this, the meaning of -t, sir, by building this?
That is a tag name. -t is a tag name. Okay. So now I hope you remember .git ignore.
Yes, sir.
Normally in the git ignore, if you specify the files, otherwise those extensions, those files are not pushed to remote repositories or repositories. In the same way, here we can specify Docker ignore file. If you specify this Docker ignore file, if I use copy dot in my copy dot space dot, if I use this, all the files are getting copied inside the image into the working directory. From my local directory, whatever the files I have, these all copies to
The image, sir. Working directory.
But what we can do, like unnecessary files or any secure files are getting copied unnecessarily burden to me, because that image may be viewed to anyone can use that image. That is the reason we are skipping those file formats and those by keeping those in the Docker ignore file. Are you able to understand why we'll use Docker ignore file? In the copy or add, we want to skip those files should be copied. So that is the purpose we are using
Docker ignore file.
the Docker ignore file we are skipping. Okay, so just go through these instructions. I shared one link, right? That is official documentation. Go through all those and all the instructions, try to understand and try to write down all these Docker files.
Okay, sir.
Okay, sure.